Today we're making Babka Buns with a twist. Hi everyone, welcome to Black Cat Kitchen. I hope you're doing well. Today we're making Babka Buns, but not just any Babka Buns. These are baklava inspired and they have a spicy, nutty filling with a honey glaze. This dough is very similar to my chocolate babka, and if you haven't seen that video, you can watch it here. Let's get started. See the description below for a list of ingredients. We're going to start with 205 grams of whole eggs. I've taken a little bit of the egg white out of the 4 eggs to make it equal 205 grams. To this, we'll add 145 grams of whole milk, very carefully, 60 grams of sugar, 5 grams of yeast, and 150 grams of soft butter. We'll mix that to slightly combine and break up the eggs. Now that the eggs are mixed and most of the butter's been broken up, we're going to add in our flour and our salt. So I'm using 500 grams of bread flour and 10 grams of salt. And again, we're just going to mix this to combine. Once your dough has started to form, it will still be a little bit shaggy and you'll see little bits of butter still inside there. We're going to let this rest for 30 minutes so that all of the water can be absorbed by the flour. So let's cover it up and we'll come back in half an hour. Once 30 minutes has passed, we're going to knead our dough for 5 to 10 minutes until it comes into a tight ball. You can do this in your mixer or by hand. Once your dough has a nice smooth exterior, we're going to test for its gluten structure. So you'll want to perform a Windowpane test. This is when you pull the dough up and you want to be able to see through it without it tearing. I've lightly oiled this bowl so that the dough doesn't stick. And I put a little bit of oil on the top of the dough. And now I'm just going to place my dough in the bowl and leave it for about an hour and a half to 2 hours until it's doubled in size. While our dough is proving, let's make our baklava-inspired filling. I've put 100 grams of whole pistachios in my food processor. I'm going to pulse these until they're finely chopped. If you haven't got a food processor, you can pop them in a food-safe bag and just hit them with your rolling pin until they break into small pieces. If you are using your food processor, be careful not to over-pulse them. You don't want pistachio butter here. This is the consistency you're looking for, a nice fine chop. I'm using 4 cardamom pods in this recipe. I struggle to find pre-ground cardamom here in the UK, but you're more than welcome to use it if you can find it in your local store. I would use about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, but no more than that. Cardamom is very strong and too much can really overpower the rest of the flavors.
And cardamom, just to spice it up.
There you go, more flavors.
All right, let's get some water.
I've de-seeded my cardamom pods and now I'm just grinding them with my pestle and mortar. To our mixing bowl, we'll add 100 grams of melted butter, 190 grams of caster sugar, 75 grams of ground almonds, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and that cardamom that we ground up earlier. I'm also going to add to this a few drops of pistachio extract. The extract is optional, but recommended. We're going to mix this until it's paste-like. Again, if you haven't got a food processor, you can just do this by hand. This is what your paste should look like. A little bit like wet sand. After about an hour and a half, your dough should be ready. And you'll test it just by putting a finger in it. And if it doesn't rise back too quickly, you've still got a dimple there, you're ready to go. I've lightly dusted my work surface with some flour, and I'm going to turn my dough out onto it now. I'm going to spread it out into a bit of a rectangle, and then I'm going to roll it until it's a little bit thinner. Don't worry if you're rolling out those air bubbles. We're going to let this prove again. And you want to keep it as rectangular as possible. Now that our rectangle is about 12 by 18 inches, we're ready to put on our paste. I'm going to use my hands to break up our filling so we have a nice even coverage. I'm using a palette knife just to smooth that out a little bit further. Now we're going to take the pistachios that we crushed up earlier and put them on 2/3 of our pastry. I'm leaving these edges bare purposefully because I'll cut off the excess dough later. You can leave yourself a little bit of pistachio to decorate on top later on. We're going to take the side without the pistachios and fold it over into the middle. Just like that. Give it a little press down so everything makes contact. And then I'm going to press these pistachios into that sugary filling so nothing pours out. And we're going to do the same with this side, flipping it over onto this clean side. Give this a little roll so everything sticks nicely together. I'm going to trim the edges at both ends just to remove that excess pastry that won't have any filling. Carefully divide your dough into 12 equal pieces. You'll want to make 2 cuts down each piece, leaving about a 1/4 inch at the end uncut. You'll want to be a bit delicate here. You don't want all of your filling to pour out the sides. So now we're going to braid this into a standard 3-strand braid. What I mean by that is you'll take your right hand piece and bring it over the center and then move that original centerpiece back to the side. Then take your left hand piece and bring that one over the one which is now the center and originally the right hand side. That now becomes your middle piece. You're going to continue doing this, left hand, right hand, over the center piece, over and over again until you've formed your braid. And when you get to the end, just pinch the dough together. With the end that's not cut, we're going to tuck that underneath and just continue rolling underneath, almost like you're making a little bit of a spirally snail's shell. Once you get to the end, just pop it in your muffin tin. We're going to let these prove for 1 hour. About 30 minutes into the proving process, we're going to preheat the oven to 190 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit. After an hour, they'll have proofed, and you can check just by giving them a little press. You'll just want a little bit of bounce back on your dough. We're going to sprinkle the tops with pistachio and pop them in the oven. While those are baking, we're going to make our honey glaze. Into our pan goes 50 grams of caster sugar, 75 grams of ready honey, and 120 grams of water. We're just going to bring this up on a low heat just to allow the sugar and honey to melt. If you want your syrup to have that really traditional baklava flavor, once it's off the heat, you can add a few drops of rose water. It's been about 10 to 15 minutes on a medium-high heat, and it's cooked down about halfway, so it's a nice little syrup. Now we'll just set it aside to cool until our babka buns come out of the oven. They've been in the oven for 30 minutes, and don't they just look incredible? I wish you could smell these right now. I'm going to generously coat them with the honey syrup. I find dabbing the easiest way. It stops all the nuts falling off, and it really gets in those nooks and crannies. This adds a beautiful honey flavor and moisture through your little buns. We're going to let these cool for about an hour, and then we'll come back and taste them. Oh my God, that is like eating a babka, but a baklava, and they're mushed together and they're perfect and amazing. Oh, the dough is so light and rich from that butter and the eggs, but it's still fluffy, almost cake-like. And the seasoning, the cinnamon and the cardamom in there, it just gives it that little bit of spice, that heat underneath. And you've got those rich, delicious, crunchy pistachios right through the whole thing. And then those few on top with that honey glaze, that really adds beautiful moistness. You've definitely got to give this a try. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. We'll see you next time.